In ancient China, there lived an emperor of the highest degree. He was a good emperor. He knew the laws of his land, but of his people he knew nothing at all. He had never been beyond the high stone walls that surrounded his palace. All day long, he read about his kingdom in the books and scrolls that were kept in the palace. All day long, he was guarded by the 7 mandarins who had lived all their lives, as the emperor had, within the palace walls. These mandarins were honorable men. They dressed in silken robes and wore embroidered slippers. They ate from porcelain dishes and drank the most delicate teas. While it was important that the mandarins guarded their emperor throughout his days, they had a higher duty still. At night, they were the guardians of the emperor's spirit. It was written in the books and scrolls of the kingdom that each night the emperor's spirit left his body and flew into the sky on the wings of a giant kite. The emperor and the 7 mandarins believed that what was written in the books and scrolls was true. Each mandarin took turns flying the emperor's kite through the long, dark hours, keeping it high above the terrors of the night. The emperor's kite was a giant dragon. Its body was gilded with gold. Its tail was of silk with colored tassels. It would dip and soar and crest the currents of air like a giant serpent in the wind. Now, of all the mandarins, the 7th was the youngest. He was also the most simple. While the other mandarins enjoyed feasting and dancing and many rich pleasures, the 7th mandarin loved only 3 things in all the world. He loved the emperor, the books and scrolls of the law, and the emperor's giant kite. That he loved his emperor, there was no doubt, for the 7th mandarin would not rest until the emperor rested. That he loved the books and scrolls, there was also no doubt. Not only did the 7th mandarin believe that what was written was true, he also believed that what was not written was not true. But more than his emperor, and more than the books and scrolls of the law, the 7th mandarin loved the emperor's kite, the carrier of the emperor's spirit. One night, when it was the 7th mandarin's turn to fly the emperor's kite, the sky was black with clouds. A wild wind blew through the kingdom. The 7th mandarin had never seen such a wind. He was afraid to fly the kite, but he knew he must. For it was written that if the kite did not fly, the emperor's spirit would be in danger. He fearfully sent the kite into the stormy sky. The minute the giant kite swam into the sky, it began to rage and strain at the string. It twisted and turned and dived and pulled. The wind gnawed and fretted and goaded the kite, nipping at its tender belly and snatching at its silken tail. At last, with a final snap, the precious kite string parted. Before the seventh Mandarin's eyes, the king's kite sailed wildly over the palace spires, over the roofs of the Mandarin's mansions. Come back! Come back, oh magnificent windbird, cried the seventh Mandarin. Come back with the emperor's spirit, and I will tip your tail with gold and melt silver onto your wings. But the kite did not come back. The seventh Mandarin ran down the steps. He hid his face so that no one would recognize him. He ran through the echoing corridors, past the Mandarin's mansions, and for the first time, through the gates of the high palace walls. He ran past the neat houses of the merchants, past the tiny homes of the workers, past the ramshackle falling down huts and hovels of the poor. At last, above the hills that marked the edge of the kingdom, the seventh Mandarin saw something flutter like a wounded bird in the sky. He ran and ran until he came to the foot of the mountain, where he found the emperor's kite. What a terrible sight met his eyes. The wings of the dragon were dirty and torn. The links of its body were broken apart. Its tail was shredded and bare. It would never fly again. The seventh Mandarin feared for the life of his emperor, for if the emperor's spirit had flown on the wings of the kite, the emperor must surely be dead. He gathered the kite in his arms and began the long, slow journey back. He carried the emperor's kite past the canals and the ramshackle, falling down huts and hovels of the poor. As he passed with the broken kite in his arms, it came to him that he had never read of such things in the books and scrolls of the kingdom. Yet the cries and groans he heard were not made by the wind. At last, the seventh Mandarin entered the courtyard. He climbed the stairs to his chamber and placed the broken kite on his couch. Then he sat down and waited to hear of the death of the emperor. Soon all 7 of the Mandarins were called to the emperor's chamber. His face was pale and still. I have killed my emperor, thought the 7th Mandarin. But slowly the emperor opened his eyes. I dreamed a dream last night, he said. I dreamed that in my kingdom there are ramshackle hovels and huts that are falling down. It is not so, said the 6 Mandarins. I dreamed that in my kingdom there are people who sigh and moan, people who cry and groan when the night is dark and deep. It is not so, said the 6 Mandarins. If it is not so, then how have I dreamed it? For is it not written that the dream is the eye of the spirit? And if my spirit was flying on the wings of my kite, and these things are not so, then how did my dream see all this? Then the 7th Mandarin spoke. Oh, Emperor, I saw these same things last night, and I did not dream. The wind was a wild, mad beast. It ripped your kite from my hand. The kite flew to these same huts and hovels of which you dreamed. As I followed the kite, I saw and heard many who moan and sigh, who groan and cry beyond the high palace walls. There are many, although it is not written in any of the books or scrolls of the kingdom. It was death to fail the emperor. It was death to damage his kite. It was death to say that what was not written in the books or scrolls was so. Then the emperor spoke.
For 3 reasons that you already know, you deserve to die. But for discovering the truth and not fearing to reveal it, you deserve to live.
That very night, the emperor and his 7 mandarins made their way to the mountain at the edge of the kingdom. There they buried the emperor's kite with honors. The next morning, when the kingdom awoke, the people found that the high walls surrounding the palace were being removed. From that day forward, the emperor rode daily with his mandarins through the kingdom. He met with his people and heard their pleas. He listened and looked as well as read. He so improved the lives of the people that their sighs and moans were never heard again. The mandarins never again had to fly the emperor's kite as a duty. Instead, once a year, at a great feast, they sent a giant dragon kite into the sky to remind themselves and their emperor of the folly of believing only what is written. And the emperor, with the 7th mandarin by his side, ruled a land of good and plenty.